ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. It is a pro wrestling podcast. Thank you for popping in. We are here. It is August. We are recording this on August 22nd to be very specific. You're probably listening to this at the very earliest on the 23rd. So, thank you very much for popping this in, giving me a whirl, joining me as we dive into some pro wrestling talk right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, which is, by the way, where we record live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So if you ever want to make it there, that we'd love to have you. It's always a good time. But thank you for being here nonetheless. If you're watching this on demand, consider leaving a like on the video as well as a subscription if this is your first time here. There's a lot of content that happens here. We do this stuff, this stuff being, an overall discussion, opinion, analysis show of pro wrestling. But then on top of that, I do Dynamite reviews on Thursdays. I do Collision reviews on Sundays. By the way, this Sunday, if you're used to getting my Collision reviews, don't expect one this Sunday. We're not doing any Collision reviews on Sunday because of All In. Look, by the time you get around to listening to my Collision review, by the time I record it and put it out there and YouTube does, its processing and all that, you're all going to be watching All In, and it's going to be a thing of the past, and everything will be a moot point at that point. So there's no reason to do it. Just come and join me. Subscribe and you won't miss a thing, or follow me on your favorite podcast application, because at the same time, everything I do on YouTube is transferred into audio format for Apple Podcasts and Spotify, although Spotify, there's also a video. But look, the point is that you can find me just about anywhere on any podcast application that you would love and enjoy and like to use. So I'm there for you. You're there for me. Thank you very much. I'm also there for you in the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord. The link is in the description. It was a wild stream. When I record this live, there was because we got a little visit, an impromptu visit from MJF, which I completely did not expect, and I'm probably going to clip that and put that on the YouTube page just to make sure everyone knows what we're talking about. So if sometimes you hear me talking about yes Max, yes MJF, we're getting to this, he joined us and I was very flattered, and thank you very much for popping in, champ. Hopefully I put you over enough to your satisfaction, because we talked about where we previewed All In 2023. That's what we did for the bulk of the show. I also have a few thoughts about Edge wrestling his final match in WWE at the very least. We're going to talk about that. And I also review a couple of shows that happened this weekend. The All-Star Junior Festival USA 2023 and the Impact New Japan Multiverse of Matches 2 review. So that's all stuff that you can expect on today's episode. Thank you very much for being here. Let's just jump right in and go to the weekly wrestling inspection. All right, well, we'll kill the music here, and we will get right into AEW All In preview 2023. This is happening in just a couple of days, folks. August 27, 2023. From merry old London in England, merry old England, London, merry old England in the UK. Look. Wembley Stadium, I don't know if you've heard. Place is packed. A couple of days ago, we passed, when I say we, I mean AEW passed the 80,000 mark of tickets distributed. It is just like it's an unmitigated, unquestionable, real deal success. And I remember, and look, there's always moments where you're like, look, shit surprises me, because I remember very, very clearly when we started talking about Wembley way back then, I was saying that, if AEW makes it to 60,000, I think they can consider it a success, right? I think at 60,000, that's your mark. That's where you go, hey, this shit rules. But then I'm like, but we're 20,000 over that. I was being super conservative. I was never in the dumps with the people saying, oh, they're going to sell 20,000. They're going to have to tarp off, a fourth of the arena. I was never those. But even back then, I did not necessarily expect. I did not even necessarily. I did not expect at all In to do over 80,000 currently, according to WrestleTix, as of when was this set up? This update? Well, I don't know when the latest update is, but as of yesterday. There we go. Just have to unhide a column once in a while. That's how spreadsheets work. 81,189. Those are the tickets distributed. So that is, that's just insane. That's just crazy. But this is where we're at now. So this is all looking very good. And look, I think, unfortunately though, I believe that the story of the build to All In 2023 is the fact that the pay-per-view doesn't feel like remarkably special. Okay, let's parse this one thing at a time here. If you look at the card in and about itself, I like the card. I think it's a good card. I think it's a fine card. And you know what? Here's the thing. I know better at this point in time to bet against an AEW pay-per-view, right? Because they are, most of the time, in the grand majority of things, they are excellent, tip-top pay-per-views. Never bet against an AEW pay-per-view. That's just nonsense. But this one, it doesn't feel grandiose, despite the fact. No, it's not even despite the fact. Even because of the idea that we have 20,000, 80,000 people. I'm still thinking about people being dopes. 80,000 people in an arena. We should be celebrating this. This should be on the tips of everyone's tongues. We should be feeling that same kind of effervescence we felt when the original All In, was announced. When Cody and the Bucks put all of this together, and we were having the biggest North American indie super show, the biggest North American draw for a wrestling show that was not a WWE show in I don't know how many years. That's how we should be feeling. This should be the talk of the wrestling world. Everyone should be excited about the concept, the idea of Wembley Stadium hosting this show and being filled with 80,000 rabid British fans, and probably from other spots in Europe and from the Union itself, right? Over 80,000 tickets sold. And look, on top of that, we've got 90,000. What did WWE announce? Something like 90,000 tickets sold for WrestleMania next year, like on their 2 days in their just in the pre-sale. Like, these are all things we should be celebrating. These are things that we should all be jumping around and being excited about and saying how exciting it is to be in this moment of pro wrestling where not only we have a major league company that's doing fantastic business, but we have a competitor, we have a challenger brand. We have a number two that is doing these outstanding numbers. And MJF in the chat, and I shit you not for those of you who are listening to this and aren't here live, MJF in the chat says we're probably going to hit 82,000, and he's absolutely right. What did I say we were at? 81,189. And if you look at the trend right now, they're absolutely busting 82,000. I think we'll be really close to 85. I think we're going to get really, really close to 85. So the story, and I think, because I've also seen, bozos out there, doing this weird thing where it's like, hey, they're selling 80,000 tickets, they have to be doing something right. And I'm not disputing that. I think you can have both. I don't think both things are mutually exclusive. I think I can still talk about how the match doesn't feel special. How I think it's a fair criticism to put forward to say that AEW made the pay-per-view feel like just a Full Gear or a Revolution. And not that there's anything bad with those. There's nothing wrong with those pay-per-views. It's just it feels like another one on the schedule when it is anything but. I don't know who needs to have this hammered home in their brains once again. This is going to be the biggest paid attendance for a wrestling show of all time. The only other one was, people came to the arena with guns to their heads, kind of thing. They had soldiers looking at them. They're like, hey, we might take members of your family away if you don't come to this wrestling show, kind of thing. I mean, it just doesn't feel grandiose. And I've been talking about this for weeks, but since we are previewing the show, and maybe some people are just going to be popping in to listen to this for the first time, I'm going to continue hammering this home. If there's one thing that WWE does well, it's making WrestleMania feel like the most important thing in the world. It's like, don't schedule any major medical operations on the day of WrestleMania. There's no point to it. They've been hammering WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia for weeks upon weeks upon weeks. And then in the meantime, we get to, and then, after that, I should say, then we get to, then we get onto the road to WrestleMania. It's like 146 weeks left, or 146 days left, 93 days left, 20 days left, yeah. And then, yes, it does at some point get really fucking annoying, but there's a middle ground to be had between, WrestleMania announcement overkill versus what AEW did with Wembley. Like there's a middle here. There's a sweet spot that we didn't get. So so that's just fantastic, if you ask me. Both things are true. So you can look at this and say, the card is good, but the build was bad. Or again, it's not even a question of the build is bad, because there are matches on this card that are fantastically built, such as one between Maxwell Jacob Friedman and Adam Cole, for instance, right? We got to put that guy over. And there's others too. And I'm also a guy who doesn't care. Sometimes a cool match is a cool match. Sometimes you can just bring in two guys or girls and just because of where they're from and how they're coming in. Well, it's just like you can just put them together and it's like, hey, go out there, have a cool match. You don't need the build. That's also a thing. Not enough sign pointing to the build, in the build up to All In. Yeah, see, that's exactly what we're talking about. But that's where we're at right now. So I think to wrap this part of the preview up, I think that it's fine to criticize the build for what this means for pro wrestling as far as a historic moment goes, a landmark, and how significant it is for AEW. Christ, this company is barely 5 years old. We're still like in startup mode. And they are outdrawing the World Wrestling Federation, WWE, whatever the hell you want to call them, because I'm thinking back to the Wembley show in '92. So that's why my brain goes to Federation, but they're outdrawing them, a company that's been around for 50 years. And they're pulling this shit off. Like, these are all things that we can applaud, but why is it that the company that is promoting this event, why aren't they making the rest of us understand how special this is? Why is it someone like me, a dope, in an office on a Tuesday night with a ring light telling you that this is special? See, you know what I mean? Like, why am I hammering this home? Because it is, and it shouldn't be my job to do it. I should be following the tide and going, yeah, whoa, they are absolutely right when they say that this is the greatest show, the biggest show ever done. You know, so that's what I should be doing. So I think both are, but you know, you don't have to go all in on one side or not, haha, pun intended, but really wasn't. You just have to go, I think it's a fair analysis of the situation here. Card is fine. I think it's going to be a good show. I have no reasons to believe that it won't be. But as a wrestling fan, as someone who's also been who watched a lot of wrestling, who enjoys the history of wrestling, this was a home run, a grand slam. I'm already out of breath. Lucas Charpillon, nice to see you. And welcome. C'est bon de te voir encore ce soir. On a MJF, et sans blague, hein? On a MJF dans le chat présentement. So, you know, look, on that note and everything in regards to the build-up, Tony Khan did have his media call today. Lucas talking about it in the chat. Might as well bring it up here. I think the biggest news to come out of this is I believe the biggest news to come out of it out of the media call today was that Tony Khan announces that things are going to happen, that matches are going to change due to things happening in the real world as opposed to pro wrestling being a completely fake one. That really, you know, that's internet speak, if you ask me. You know, when we say my IRL friends as opposed to my online friends. Anyway, let me read the little blurb here. Josh Nason from the Figure 4 Online wrote this. According to the man who is putting the show together, AEW head Tony Khan revealed during Tuesday's media call that he expects changes for Sunday's All In pay-per-view from London's Wembley Stadium. There will be adjustments to the card, he says. Some of them may have been planned from the start, but and some things we're dealing with on the fly. That's what he said. I managed to read lines here. What I find interesting in this quote, let me read that again because I sort of flubbed it, but I'm going to read it again. There will be adjustments to the card. Some of them have been planned from the beginning. Some are things we're dealing with on the fly. Well, they're not changes if they're planned, are they? Or look, I mean, we can get into the semantics of it, but I find it's a bit of some of these changes were planned. Well, okay, maybe angles, guys being taken out, whatever. Anyway, he didn't go into specifics. This is the rest of the article here. He didn't go into specifics as to what the changes will be and when they will be announced. Both Dynamite and Saturday's Collision will be held this Wednesday, while Rampage was taped last Saturday. It doesn't appear those changes will be for the AEW tag team titles between FTR and the Young Bucks, despite Cash Wheeler's arrest last week for aggravated assault with a firearm. As of Tuesday morning, it was reported that Wheeler was expected for the show, with Khan saying on the call that he is taking the situation seriously, but doesn't have all the facts as of now, which is fair. He continues on, he being Tony Khan, quote, I expect more changes. There were not changes I wanted to make or planned to make, he said. There will probably be some changes to the card necessitated by things happening in the real world. It's still really funny. Stuff in some cases that is nobody's fault, but stuff that is not related to the world of professional wrestling. Now, again, just an odd quote, because, you know, if, and this is a big if, he's referring to Cash Wheeler's situation, it is entirely someone's fault if that happened. There is one guy to blame here. Now, again, in fairness, I guess, he did plead not guilty, and there's stuff, this is a developing story, right? We only got a few things to work off on. We have the affidavit and so on and so forth. But there we go. That's the thing. But it's just like, yes, there are things happening that are someone's fault. Khan said he is grateful none of the changes will affect the main event of AEW World Champion MJF defending against Adam Cole. Aren't we all, though? He said that the success of their storyline has been a blessing for both the company and the card. Khan said Bryan Danielson was someone he wanted to have prominently involved in the show in a quote-unquote main match, but that injury was a fluke thing. Oh, you don't say. Additionally, who plans it? Are we planning injuries now, folks? But it's okay. Look, I'm being stupid, nitpicky, but it's all right. It's okay. Additionally, he wanted Jamie Hayter and Pac to both be prominently involved on All In, but their availability due to injury changed, quote unquote, a lot of plans, and I have no doubt on that. Absolutely no doubt. Other little notes here. Well, Khan himself said in the media call that the current gate for All In sits around 10 million, I'm assuming dollars and not pounds sterling, and 80,000 tickets. According to WrestleTix, we're a little higher than that. When asked about the roles of Kenny Omega and the Jacksons as executive vice presidents versus those of Chris Jericho and CM Punk, who don't have titles but have influence backstage, Khan said the EVPs have a variety of responsibilities but didn't directly answer the question or discuss the differences. Khan also didn't answer how many years the elite members sign on their new deals, saying the start dates and end dates are different due to factors like injury time. I think we all know who we're speaking of, right? I think we all know who we're talking about. Kenny Omega. But as an observer, as a fan, as someone who is involved in this and who puts all of their not their livelihood, but puts a lot of passion into pro wrestling. This is the kind of stuff that I'd like to know. This is the kind of stuff that as a fan, if I had just a wee more transparency on this, I think I would appreciate it. I'd like to know what these individual roles are instead of like, oh, they're a coach or they're an EVP. An EVP of what? What are the responsibilities? What are the duties? Everyone lost their minds when Cody left because, oh, he's an EVP. What do the EVPs do? But I also understand, look, I know that AEW is not required to disclose that information because they're a private company, they're not publicly traded, so we don't need to understand the structure all that much. Whatever happens. And I can also understand, let's say, I can also understand a strategy where Tony Khan is like, look, we're going to keep this as opaque as possible in regards to fans because I don't want individual people eating shit for bad decisions, for poor things that happen during the show, because ultimately I'm the captain and I should be taking the lumps. So if he does take lumps, then he can just turn around and give someone, some personal lumps and not, I'm doing this, but not physically, not really. Your employer should never beat up on you. That's what I'm saying. But it's like, I can appreciate that, him being a shield, essentially, to public criticism, to people who think they understand how things work, and then immediately like jump on and go, tear someone apart and then hit the bricks kind of thing. That's just, that's something anyway that we can, that could probably factor in here. But so I understand maybe why not doing it, but also I'd like to have some, it's not even transparency. It's not even a question of transparency. It's just like, as a fan, I just like to know this stuff. Look who just popped in. C'est Norbert Feuillant, who is the voice of AEW in France. All the stars are here tonight. All the stars. Good to see you, Norbert. Bonsoir. Il se fait tard. Va falloir peut-être te coucher bientôt. Sorry for the French. Let's move on. A couple of more notes. Khan hinted heavily that the company will have a bigger presence as well in the UK, but that, he felt that before All In, it wasn't the right time to make those announcements known. He feels, like we mentioned, because these are two sets of notes, basically. He feels MJF and Adam Cole has been one of the best, if not the best story they have ever told on television. Now, quite honestly, it's doing fantastic for them. Doing great numbers for TV, for ratings, and that's fantastic. But I want to throw the Kenny Omega Adam Page stuff in here. Yeah, the whole Adam Page story. Goddamn, that was some good stuff too. But on two different levels, if you ask me, right? Two different approaches, and I don't want to start splitting hairs tonight. We could, set up a debate on another occasion, but right now, let's continue with the preview. Khan said it will be, because he was talking about Sting, and he said it will be up to Sting on when he wants his career to end, adding, quote, "I don't want it to end, and I will not be the one to pull the plug on his career." So there we go. Khan also said that Warner Bros. Discovery head David Zaslav recently told his father, Shad, upon meeting him that, quote unquote, "Your son is fucking killing it." Okay, is this a compliment? Like from David Zaslav? I don't know. It depends. Look, it depends on what side of the fence you're on, I guess, but that's a funny little note. So that, those are, the notes of interest, I guess, that came out from the media call. Of course there was, how does it feel going to London? How does it feel going to London and selling out Wembley? I'm sure the answer might surprise you. Eh ben voilà, Sturi, how are you? Bonsoir. It really is an all-star cast tonight. We got the whole French community hanging out here tonight. Plus our scumbag. So let's get into the matches. Let's start talking about the shit. Let's get into the preview for these matches right here. As soon as I take a little sip of drink here. Oh, you are going to Wembley? That's awesome. That's awesome. It is going to be a hell of an event. It's going to be one hell of a party. Like, no one does audiences like the Europeans do. They really don't. A few years ago, I had the chance to go sit at a Real Madrid match. This was years ago. I'm talking, look, my oldest, it's about 20 years at this point. And the energy, everything is so much fun. It's going to be crazy. Oh yeah, it's going to be 50% French. So you're all okay traveling international waters to go to the UK? Is what you're telling me? All right, let's go for it. Aussie Open in the pre-show are taking on MJF and Adam Cole for the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. So here's the interesting thing. The minute that this popped up, right? The minute that that Adam Cole brought this up and that they did this angle, I was like, okay, this is awesome. This is great. That means that there is something that is going to happen that is going to compel you to want to watch the rest of the show, right? This has got to be the outcome. This has got to be the thing, right? This has absolutely got to be the thing. It can't be just a tease. Can it be just a tease? I'm thinking full on turn here. And look, I've talked multiple times as to who should turn on who and why. And look, I am flabbergasted, even to this day, at how everyone has picked up on MJF as a babyface, how great he is as a babyface, how natural he just slid into that role, and how amazing it's working. And I think in an environment where on one side you have CM Punk, who wants to be a heel and is holding a phony baloney world title, right? And then you have MJF, who is the actual champion and is converting to babyface. I don't think you turn MJF. I think you double down on babyface MJF, and you have Adam Cole put the boots to him in the pre-show, and then you have MJF come in with rib tape for the main event, and you're like, that's scumbag Adam Cole with Roderick Strong and his Kingdom buddies, right? That's scumbag. Look at what he did. And then you have your and I think that's bold as fuck. I think it's tremendously bold to have your main eventers, your top act in the company right now, your top feud, be in the pre-show of your pay-per-view to do something that will have a direct impact, right? That will be more than a story beat, a turn. And I think that is spectacular, and it's not something anyone else does. It's not something that anyone else does. The other guys, they have a bunch of people sitting around a table giving kayfabe commentary about what's going to happen in the show later on in the evening. And now we've got this that has legitimate intrigue. This might be the most watched pre-show in the history of pre-shows in pro wrestling. But I absolutely 100% would go with Adam Cole turning on MJF because they failed to win the titles. And Adam Cole wants a belt. He wants titles. That's his thing. And then it turns out, and it turns out, and yes, it would be. Imagine how we're talking about the crowd, the people at home. Imagine the audience. Imagine how wild the audience would get. It's just insane. So, circling back here, I lost my train of thought. I lost where I was going with this. But look, it doesn't matter. The point is that I think that's the best way to do it. I think that's what you do. And then you maintain a top babyface MJF. You know what I even do? Well, no, I'm going to talk about it later. But you maintain a top babyface MJF so that he fights CM Punk at Full Gear like it was supposed to happen last year before, the muffin incident, before the gripe bomb happened. And have CM Punk do the JOB for the 1, 2, 3 to MJF at Full Gear for the title, drops his phony baloney title, and because I swear to God, this real world champion stuff, I do not want this to last long. Y'all were sick and tired of interim titles. What do you think this bullshit is all about? Anyway, but in the meantime, I think this should be a pretty good match. We're here talking about the meta around it, right? The story. But this should be pretty good. Like, there's no reason for this to suck. Even though Raj Giri has no idea who Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher are, and he feels very uncomfortable about it. I do, you do, and we're all excited for the match. Am I right, fellas and ladies? Let's go. Hikaru Shida will be defending the AEW Women's World Championship in a 4-way match against Toni Storm, Saraya, and Dr. Britt Baker Diamde. I'm hoping this will be good, but you know me, when it comes to titles build a challenger, go one-on-one, that's it. It's just move on. Just build a challenger, have a one-on-one, let's get on with our lives. That's it, we're good, right? That's all we really need. So, I understand the Jamie Hayter being injured probably did throw the biggest of monkey wrenches into the situation here. There was look, I don't think Shida is holding the title coming out of this match, because there was a reason why they had Toni Storm drop it a couple of weeks ago before coming into this. And quite frankly, I think it is to set up Saraya winning the title without having to, without having to beat her friend, without having to take the title away from her friend, her stablemate. I think that's where we're going. And quite frankly, I think it's the worst case scenario. I think it's the worst case scenario. Like, look at who's in this match and tell me, world champion Saraya. I don't know. Saraya's been a little bit of she's been a little bit of a bill of goods. Are we sure Ronnie Radke is not playing at the... Are we sure he's not getting a... God, that'd suck. If we're being real here... Saraya has, she has the charisma, she has the presence, she has her storied history, but... as far as her in-ring goes, she hasn't really shown anything that blows anyone's minds, Between all of these three women here, where you have, an excellent worker like Toni Storm, a great wrestler like Shida, a very good wrestler like Britt, Saraya sticks out here. Or maybe this is the performance that she's just been saving. Maybe she's Hiroshi Tanahashi in the G133. Where throughout the tournament, you're going like, oh my God, the dude's washed. How is he ever going to compete? And then he gets to the block finals and he pulls out a masterpiece with Tetsuya Naito, who is, up there in age as well and with bad knees and so on and so forth. And you're like, okay, well, when it's time, he pulls it out. Maybe Saraya is one of those. We're about to find out. Did I just compare Saraya to Hiroshi Tanahashi? Conrad, I was going to say Carlos. Carlos is another person here in the chat. But Conrad from Everything Pro Wrestling, how are you, pal? And welcome. Thank you for being here. Go Ace, indeed. Then we get Darby Allin and Sting taking on the Mogul. They're also very mobile. They go places. The Mogul Embassy. AR Fox and Swerve Strickland in a tag team coffin match. Now, if I'm not mistaken, and folks, hopefully someone in the chat will be able to correct me if I'm wrong. But if I'm not mistaken, if I picked up on this correctly, both individuals of the team, both members of the team have to be in the coffin for the other team to win, correct? I believe I got that right. It's not just one guy who gets locked up. But look, this is a match that, again, certain wrestling pundits called this is barely a television match, right? I've seen this. How is this on the Wembley show when this is barely a Dynamite match? They do it in that voice because they want to sound sophisticated. They want to sound like they know what they're talking about. So then they put on an accent that makes them sound sophisticated and knowledgeable. Whereas this is one of the matches on the card that I was talking about earlier. This is one of the matches on the card that has the most build, right? That has had a fantastic build. This is out of control crazy at this point. How great this the beatdown at the Wayne school for training Nick Wayne, whatever it's called, that was amazing, and I'm still into it. I've been into this entire build. I think it rules. I think it's fantastic, and I'm excited to see this match. Look, all the elements are there for this match to be awesome and crazy. I am stoked for this match. And if Sting wants to do more crazy shit, let Sting go and do. You know what? I hope he does more crazy shit to spin the whatchamacallem, the safety police, to get them in a tizzy again. Because this is great. And yeah, I agree. You know, AR Fox and Swerve, right? Lucha Underground lives forever. But it is great. Like, everything works here. All of this has been outstanding. It has been a tremendous build. And I'm excited for this match. And, you know, here's the thing where you're like, where Darby is on, he's fighting two battles. He's fighting two battles on two entirely different fronts, right? Because he's doing this on one hand, and then on the other hand, he's gunning for the TNT title. And yet, I can follow everything. See, I'm not a complete dope. I'm not a complete idiot. And you know why it's working? Because they're not mixing the cards. They're not shuffling the entire deck together. They didn't bring out Swerve and Fox on Collision this week when Darby had that run in with Christian Cage and Luchasaurus. They didn't have everyone come down and sort of muddy everything up. No. Everything is nice and tidy in its own spot. And it makes sense and it works. It's good stuff. Next match we're going to talk about is the Golden Elite, or the Golden Cowboys. How do we call them? I guess the Golden Elite. Kota Ibushi, Kenny Omega, and Hangman Adam Page. They'll be taking on the Bullet Club Gold duo of Juice Robinson and Jay White, plus Konosuke Takeshita. I know a lot of people are flustered that Kenny Omega is not getting a singles match at All In. And one would assume that a guy like Kenny sort of calls the shots here. And maybe it's like, you know what? Maybe we should do this. Because look, here's another. This is something I forgot to mention. This is what I forgot to mention earlier on in the thing when we started. the introduction, Warren. Kenny. Not Kenny, but there are matches on All Out which will unequivocally set up some things for All In. Hang on, let me see. I'm confused now. Let me start over. There are matches on All In that are unequivocally going to set up matches for All Out, because All Out is literally a week later. So there are going to be angles and stuff being set up. Now, again, I know a lot of people are a little bummed that Kenny Omega isn't getting the big singles match at Wembley, but you still have another show to fill out. Now, you know, this has been a criticism in regards to the positioning of the Wembley show. Why do you put it a week before All Out? Why can't you just space them out a little more? Look, venue availability is a multifaceted, tentacled beast. There's so many things that get into it, and you know, I've dabbled in this. It's not an easy thing. So you know, there was probably, look, I would assume that All Out was already locked in, and then Wembley popped up. The opportunity for Wembley popped up. And AEW just went, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. Let's take the opportunity. Let's take the chance. We might not get to it just yet. We talked about your pre-show, Max. We're getting there. Trust me. So there's things on this show, basically is what I'm saying. There's things on this show that are going to have to move to the next level, right? There's things that are going to have to move to the next to the next pay-per-view. Things that are going to have to be set up here. So that's the thing. There you go. So as far as this match goes, you know what I was telling you earlier? I'm the kind of guy that you put cool people in a cool match. Just have them do things. Look, all of these people are quality assured, top-notch pro wrestlers, and there's some people in here who have wrestled each other multiple times as well. So, everyone is, has worked with each other. Everyone knows each other. Maybe outside Takeshita, who might be the outside man in on this one. But then again, Takeshita's fantastic. This is going to rule. But I will join the chorus of people saying that we have to stop fucking around with Adam Page, keeping him off TV. There was a time that guy was the ace of the company, and now he's sort of floundering. What are we doing with Page? And again, maybe it was contract season. Maybe it was, other factors, the other factors that rhyme with, that rhyme with cheese man hunk. Could be. We don't know what was going on backstage. We really don't. But, Page is beloved. Good babyface. Solid worker. He's put on some extraordinary matches. He put on some extraordinary matches during the first quarter of the year. So we got to start doing stuff here. But I'm excited for this match. I think it'll be good. Very good, actually. Then we have the Stadium Stampede match. Tony Khan. Tony Khan said that there would be matches that would be affected because of things happening in the quote unquote real world. And I think this is the one. In fact, I don't want to say I know for sure because I don't, but this is kind of what's been going around in my haunts is that this match, this is the match that might not arrive as it was advertised last week. You might have ordered something from Amazon, but you're getting it from Wish. I'm exaggerating. There's going to be principal components that are going to be mewable here, but it might not be like what, an 8-on-8? What is it? An 8, or not an 8-on-8. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a 12-man match. We might be short. Might be a 10, it might be a 5-on-5. It might be, just things are going to happen here. And by the time you're listening to this, maybe Dynamite has already happened and all this speculation is down the toilet. But this is what I'm hoping for. I'm echoing the same thing I echoed last week, or at least at the very least on the Dynamite review. I don't remember where we talked about it, but if they're going to do a Stadium Stampede match, I hope it is a Stadium Stampede match in name only. I hope it is not a pre-tape ordeal, because if I'm a rowdy British wrestling fan surrounded by 80,000, 82,000 other rowdy British fans, and that guy, I wouldn't care for that. I wouldn't care for to just watch on my screens. I'm assuming this might be something closer to Anarchy in the Arena than a Stadium Stampede, but they wanted to use the Stadium Stampede name because, hell, it is in a stadium. It is happening in a stadium. And you're not going to call it Anarchy in the Arena when you just did it into the other pay-per-view just a couple of months ago. So, look, we'll see what happens, but, the pandemic solutions for pro wrestling should remain in our memories of the pandemic. That's how I'm going to leave that for now. Will Ospreay is going to be taking on Chris Jericho. I think this is a match that nobody should be sleeping on. I'm excited for this. I believe Will Ospreay to be the greatest pro wrestler on planet Earth right now. I think Chris Jericho is going to be turning it up for this. It's going to be turning it up for this adventure. Yeah, I really don't think this is one that anyone should be poo-pooing or tossing aside or being like, no. This is going to be a good one, because Jericho's going to come in. He's going to come in. He's no dummy, coming into this huge crowd with greatest worker on the planet. He knows what he's in for, so he's not going to slouch this up. And the thing here with Will Ospreay is that he will make sure that he gets everything good out of you and will protect you to make sure that this match works. Then you only have to look to the semifinals of the G1 this year, when he carried a knocked out Tetsuya Naito, a loopy Tetsuya Naito, to the finish. He carried him through the finish. He was doing the Destinos for, he was landing Destinos on himself. Like, he was just moving Naito around. Like, it was phenomenal shit. I'm excited for this. Like, this is one that has my blood pumping. I'm cool with it. And I think this might set up more stuff for All In too. We'll see. CM Punk versus Samoa Joe. Singles match for the quote-unquote real world championship. I cannot begin to express how, I mentioned it earlier, but I'm going to drive this home here. I cannot begin to express how anxious I am at the idea of a secondary world championship running around. That doesn't do it for me. God, it doesn't do it for me. But listen, for all the people that CM Punk is feuding with right now in AEW, Ricky Starks, Jay White, MJF, Samoa Joe, like this is the one, like a rematch of a match we've already had. This is the only thing that we could do. This is the best thing we could come up with. He's even his imaginary feuds that he has only in his mind, with Hangman Adam Page. This is the best we could do here. And again, I have no problems with this. I hope no one is expecting like a 20-minute Ring of Honor classic here, because that's not going to happen. Not at the age that these guys have and what they're capable of doing anymore. I think this is kind of weird. This is kind of weird. Because we did have the match just a couple of months ago, and you know what? It happened. Don't get me wrong. Look, I am a big Samoa Joe guy. Love Samoa Joe. We're talking Punk versus Ospreay in the chat. Could Punk work an Ospreay match? I'm just being fair here. Could CM Punk work an Ospreay match? There's a lot of guys in this company that could work an Ospreay match. I think Ospreay would have to work a CM Punk match if you're picking up what I'm putting down here. I don't know how to feel about this match. I really don't. I don't have many thoughts about it. CM Punk is going to retain his Bizarro World Championship because again, the end game out of all of this, CM Punk wants to be a fucking heel so bad. Let him be a heel. Let MJF continue to be the babyface. Let's go to Full Gear. Let's have MJF go over as was supposed to be in 2021. Let's just get that out of the way. Let's just do this. Well, okay, fair. The Punk Kojima match was very good. I did enjoy it. And point taken, all right? But Will Ospreay works on another gear. He just works on another gear throughout his entire match. Now, he can adapt because he's the best, and he'd probably adapt to make sure that this worked out. Don't get me wrong. I'm just like, can CM Punk even do it kind of thing. Anyway, look, we're good. I'm working on getting a funny bone. FTR versus the Young Bucks for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. Look, this was the match that I was most looking forward to. Sorry, Max. This was the match I was most looking forward to. I still am. But now we're going to talk about it. Last Friday, news broke that Cash Wheeler had been arrested. Turns out he was appearing in court last Friday after being served a warrant back on July 28th. Wheeler is alleged to have flashed a handgun at another person during a road rage incident on July 27, or at least that's how it was, explained, not explained, but referred to as during his hearing and during his hearing, that's how the judge referred to it. what seems to be a road rage incident is what they said. Something to that effect. The warrant was arrested. The warrant for his arrest was filed, the following day. And according to county records, he pled not guilty through a lawyer on August 3rd, turned himself in on Friday morning to Orlando police. Very scant details, like I said, are provided. Were provided during his court appearance where he was booked, of course, but they did say that it was a road rage type incident. And the police affidavit, the responding officer did add a little more insight into it, and it does seem to hold up with what the judge was talking about. I won't read through the entire thing, but here's what the officer wrote. Upon my arrival, in reference to an aggravated assault with a firearm, I spoke to the victim, Daniel Mata, who provided me with a sworn written/verbal statement that said the following. Mata stated he was driving west on Interstate 4 of exit 83. He noticed a Jeep Gladiator. Can you believe a Jeep Gladiator? That's what he decided to buy with all his money. Anyway, he noticed a Jeep Gladiator weaving in and out of traffic, honking its horn. So he moved over to the far right lane to let the Jeep pass. Mata said the Jeep took the right shoulder to drive around him on the passenger side of his vehicle. Mata looked over and noticed a white male with a beard pointing a black semi-automatic handgun out of the driver's window at him with a strong stare. Mata said he feared for his life at that time. Mata stated he should slow down to get out of the way of the firearm and ended up behind the suspect's vehicle at this time. And then it continues on. So those are the essential, essentially the details here. So this is the situation that happened. And he appeared in court for that. He was given a $2,500 bond, ordered to turn in any weapons he owns and to have no contact with the alleged victim. So, of course, that's a blemish. That's something that's like, wow. I mean, it's not something good. He pled not guilty, right? I don't know if I mentioned this clearly. Yes, I did mention it. He pled not guilty, so, this is going to move forward. He's challenging the accusation, so we'll see what happens. But I just got to say, and I know right now there's other non-Americans in the chat. I just have to say that it's wild for me that I see people going around saying, what is the big deal? He just flashed his gun. And I'm like, it's a huge deal. What are you talking about? You're pulling out a firearm and just going dee-dee-doop. Like, that is insane behavior. Thank God he didn't shoot. Like, what? Would you have preferred that he shot Daniel Mata? Like, no. And then, people tell me, it's like when someone pulls a knife on you. It's like, sure, it's the same thing. But it's the same level of aggression. The difference is that the guy with the knife has to be pretty close to you, whereas the guy with the gun could be, fucking across the street across the corner and could be shooting at you. He doesn't have to, like, a gun is absolutely worse than a fucking knife. What are we doing? Now, developing story and whatnot. There's going to be a court date. This is not finished. He's challenging it. He's not guilty. So this is going to move forward. We're going to hear more evidence. There's going to be more stuff that's going to pop up. Let's defer any judgments until then. But if he did do this, what the fuck was he doing? Like, and I know it's Florida. I know. And I know road rage is a thing now. But Jesus Christ, someone pulls a gun on me, and I'm like, sure. Hey, it's aggravated assault he's being charged with. It's not a misdemeanor. This is serious. People are like, he just flashed his gun. He just flashed his gun. All he did, officer, was unsheath his sword. It's like, I do not understand. And I promise you, and I'm glad, some of the non-American folks are backing me up on this. For the rest of the world, when this kind of stuff happens, we just shrug and shake our head because it is unrelatable to people like me. I just don't understand how people are going, oh, well, he just flashed his gun. He didn't shoot anyone. It's just a road rage incident. Who cares? It's like, what? What? Anyway, back to the point. What we were talking about. That this does not deter from what I feel should happen regardless. And I thought this from the start, and that is that the Bucks should win the titles at Wembley. Why? Because it's the Young Bucks. They are the greatest tag team of the past 20 years. They defined an entirely different style of pro wrestling in North America. They helped bring it forward anyway, bring it into the limelight. It's their fucking company. The Young Bucks, and I know there's a lot of people who probably don't want to hear this, but the Young Bucks have been nothing but gracious since the formation of AEW, making sure not to make themselves go over too much, pushing the other guy, losing to Private Party, and it's like, oh, well, we'll have an occasional great match here or there, and oh, we'll do trios stuff, and oh, we'll wrestle our buddies, all that stuff. But I think the Young Bucks have not had a proper dominant run with the tag team titles in the fucking company they're EVPs in, the company that they helped form, a tag team that is seminal to your enjoyment of tag team wrestling in North America. And I have no argument to anyone who wants to challenge that with, well, FTR, the fucking best tag team of the best, so on. And we can sit around and we can trade notes, and I would agree with what most people would bring out in regards to FTR, because they are legitimately fantastic. But it's time for the Bucks to stop being such fucking nice guys and putting other guys over and being like, No, it's time to grab this bull by the horns. It's their show. It's their company. They're one of the greatest tag teams of all time. They should get the win at Wembley. Make this fucking historic for them, because it's the fucking Young Bucks. A tag team that has eaten so much shit over the years. So much shit. And once they're done, once they're gone, that's when people are going to start going, oh, you know what? The Bucks were really fucking good, weren't they? Because they could work any style of match. And they can work any style of match. They can work the style of match that people really don't like. You know, the flippy-doo, spot fests. I understand that. People do, I understand why people hate that. But they're also capable of having extraordinary matches. It rules. So regardless of whether Cash got into legal issues or not, if we were in the same spot 3 weeks ago when none of this was public, that we weren't aware of anything, I'd still be sitting here telling you, the Bucks should win. For the same reasons I just enumerated here. The Bucks had the dream, not just the dream. They told us, they said, we want AEW to be the destination for tag team wrestling. We want tag team matches to main event pay-per-views, so on and so forth. You all remember those spiels, right? I'm sure you do. Then, what better way to reestablish all of this than to let the guys, the foundation, the visionaries, take control? Let's go, because the tag team division in AEW, right up until recently, it was kind of a pale copy of what it used to be. Not exactly as exciting as it once was. All right, here's the shot in the arm we need. I am completely for this. And if the plans changed because Cash is in legal trouble and Tony doesn't want to risk it and decided to take the belts off of him even for a punishment, right? And if the Bucks are beneficiaries, good, because I think that's what you do. Main event time. MJF versus Adam Cole. Look, we've talked about it. We even talked about it before actually starting the recording of the podcast. We had a little discussion about it, but I'll reiterate it because, there's a lot of people who will be watching this on demand, will not have access to the full stream. So, I loved everything this feud has done in the ring. I loved the promos. I loved the backstage segments. I think it all was great. But I thought that the vignettes, the bits, I thought they stunk. I don't think they were funny. And I especially didn't think the trampoline one was funny. I thought that was the most egregious. You know what? The one thing that made me smile, the one thing that I really did enjoy, legitimately, was MJF beating little kids with dodgeballs. Especially that one kid was on the iPhone and she gets it like straight on the cheek and you see all the cheek meat reverberate under the impact. And I was like, okay, all right. That's funny. But anyway, I'm not going to rehash them all. You can all check out my reviews. You can all watch my Dynamite reviews. There's your mission. There's your homework. If you want to hear all my individual thoughts on each of them. But everything that they did in the ring, everything they did in the matches, as goofy as they were, everything worked. And then when it was time, this is what makes this feud work at the same time. One week, they're doing fucking dance-offs, right? Where I'm gritting my teeth and I'm like, can we just have people wrestle, goddammit? And then the next week, they're challenging him. They flip the switch and now they're in super serious mode because they're going to beat FTR. They're going to beat Cash and Dax. I'm like, all right. And now I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go. This is the energy I want. This is what I like. This is what I like about all of this. This is what I like about pro wrestling. And these guys, all of these guys, MJF, Adam Cole, these are world-class talents. What are we talking about? Like, there's nothing, and the match they had, the world championship match they had, we seem to have all forgotten throughout all the nonsense that these two had an extraordinary television match that went to time. Like legitimately went to time, like with 2 seconds to spare on a 3 count. Just outstanding stuff, like a pinpoint precision match, a great in-ring story. There is nothing to be worried about the Wembley match. I just think the build is like this for me. And even if they had decided to eschew yes, that's right. I'm bringing out the big ones. I'm bringing out my English lit major words here. If they were to eschew all of the nonsense, all of the vignettes, this would be a spot on perfect build. But look, it's doing good. It's doing good for them. It's doing great for them. It's doing fantastic. Quarter hours. Do you know, if we're going to be a little honest with each other here? Because I have a lot of people calling, it's the bloodline of AEW. So you guys know my position in this as well. It's like, don't grind this into the ground. Don't turn it into dust so that no one cares anymore. Kind of like what they're doing right now with the bloodline, right? Always leave people wanting more. So pull the plug while it's hot. Makes it hotter, But look, I feel like we're going to get that in just a couple of days. I think we're on the I feel we're on the cusp of this of a real legitimate story beat happening here at All In. It's doing good quarter hours. and you know, people are tuning in and people are saying this is the bloodline of AEW, but the one thing that it's not doing, like the bloodline, is moving tickets. Ticket sales are fine, but you know, we're not observing an uptick in ticket sales for Dynamites. Again, I'm not saying that it's a disaster. I'm not saying it's not working. It's working because look, the guys are popping quarter hours. They go to Collision 1 week. They're in the main event. They pop the quarter hours, and not only that, they get what, like the second highest rating since the debut? So it's like, it's fantastic stuff. What are we talking about? But, you know, as far as putting butts in seats, quote unquote, Tony Schiavone, it's not doing it. I don't think, look, I'm not trying to undermine how good it's working right now or how popular it is, but I think there's some folks who are overstating how popular it is or are imagining that it is as successful as, and it's not. And I don't think we're going to reach that level because I think there's a trigger that's being pulled this weekend, and that's okay. We'll go on to something else. And I think this did exactly what it needed to do this summer. It gave a hot angle for the summer for AEW. You can't, and that's something that you can absolutely not deny. Hot enough to, you know, show a pronounced increase in business? No. Merch sales? Yes. But for the almighty putting butts in seats, that's maybe not it just yet. But to the match itself. If we go back to what we were talking about at first, at the beginning of the show, when we were talking about the pre-show, that's what I'm trying to say. I think this match happens under the specter of Adam Cole having turned on MJF early on during the pre-show, just to get everyone really pumped up, to get those 82,000 people up on their seats when Adam Cole comes out, and they just want to chuck shit at him, you know, just be really fucking mad. Because again, I don't know, how many times do I have to tell this? How many times do we have to say this again? I'll say it again. I'll just go ahead and say it again. The match, in and about itself, okay? The match, not the match, but the end result here is for, in my opinion, for MJF to remain a babyface so that he will feud with a heel CM Punk. Again, I keep telling you over and over again, CM Punk wants to be a heel. They won't let him, but he wants to be a heel. Babyface MJF, heel CM Punk, roles reversed from their last match, and then CM Punk does what he was supposed to do last year in 2022, and that is to do the job to Max at Full Gear this year. Well, he was supposed to do it last year, but he'll do it at Full Gear this year. So, what do you do to end this match? MJF retains. That's what a normie would say. But me, a galaxy brain, would say, no. You have Adam Cole win the fucking thing. And then drop it next week at All In. Like, who cares? At All Out. Who cares? Who cares if Adam Cole wins the title for a week? Like, it doesn't, it's actually great shit. And it's unpredictable. It throws us all for a loop. And if that doesn't add on babyface sympathy for babyface scumbag MJF, I don't know what to tell you. That's all everyone is going to be talking about next week. CM Punk could ban Tony Khan from coming into Collision and people wouldn't even be talking about that. They'd still be talking about MJF being betrayed by Adam Cole. And is MJF going to regain the title at All Out? And the answer is yes. That's what he does. babyface comes from behind, does it. You get your big show in Wembley, but then you assure you get more buys, more pay-per-view buys, because you're asking people to buy two $50 pay-per-views back to back. Now, I know you can, hit the high seas, and yes, and upon your galley, upon the Jolly Roger, and go, I know you can do that, but you could, technically speaking, you're asking people to shell out two $50 pay-per-views back to back, and not necessarily everyone has that type of disposable income. So if you're going to do it, give them a fucking good reason to do it, And I think this is it. That's what a Galaxy Brain would book. That's what I do. So listen, I think somehow Adam Cole gets back with the kingdom. I think this was all a ruse. I think this is Adam Cole, who said weeks ago that he knows how to play MJF. He told, Roderick Strong, just let me do my thing, shut up, go away. I know what I'm doing. And he kept telling Roderick Strong that week after week, but jilted lover, vanilla white, Roderick Strong, he doesn't understand it because he's a big dummy. But Adam Cole can play MJF like a fiddle. Ultimately, that's what the story is going to be. This is what it's going to end out to be. So there you go. That's my preview. So did I make it clear? I think Adam Cole wins the belt. I think Adam Cole wins, but MJF gets it back at All Out. But I think it's going to be a hell of a week if he does. It's going to be great. So those are my thoughts. That's my preview of All In 2023, the big Wembley show. I'm excited to see how this goes down. I'm excited to listen to this. I'm fully expecting, the North American audiences to be like, this British crowd, they just want to get themselves over, with the chants and whatnot. But that's just what the British are going to do. They're going to sing their songs. They're going to chant the whole way. They're going to transform. They're going to take wrestler names and put them into famous pop tunes. That's what they do. And it's entertaining and it's fun as hell and it's a party and that's what you want to do. You want your wrestling show to look like fun. You want to give the impression that your audience is having a blast at your show. Make people at home regret not being there as opposed to, being at a fucking Monday Night Raw where everyone's sitting on their hands. Catching strays Monday Night Raw. Let's carry on. Gonna do a quick note here about Edge. You think you know him when in fact you think he's finished wrestling, don't you? That sounded so much better in my head than what I did here. Last Friday on SmackDown, it was touted that the match that Edge has was his last match in WWE. Lots of reports going around that that was his fact. In fact, his last match on his WWE contract. But Edge clarified on a radio show, I believe just over the weekend or on the same day. Look, it doesn't matter. But he did clarify that while the match was the last on his contract, the deal itself does not expire until the end of September. He said that he has yet to come to any conclusions about what he wants to do next and feels a sense of being torn, not wanting to continue until his performances are subpar. Let me tell you. But at the same time, he acknowledges that he would only find that answer once he was out in the ring, deep into a match. So, why would he be torn? Why would he use the verbiage of being torn between retiring from pro wrestling? Sure, I think, or continuing. Sure, we've heard enough pro wrestlers talk about how difficult it is to retire. some wrestlers that you wish they would retire, but were continued well beyond their expiration date. And I understand the addictive qualities of it, the crowds, and I get it. I really do. So maybe he's torn because of this decision that he has to make. Do I hang him up? Am I just done with pro wrestling? Or do I continue? And I think that's a fair assessment. Or would he be torn because he wants to go to AEW? Will he leave the sanctity of Vince's soft embrace? Well, it's not Vince's soft embrace anymore. But you know what I mean. Is this something he's considering? Is this something that he wants? Does he want to? And there's a lot of fans. I've seen an article or two positing, what is the future for Edge? Maybe a reunion with Christian Cage over in AEW would be something to really, put a bow on his career. And I myself very selfishly would tell you that I do not want Edge in AEW. I don't want him next to Christian Cage. Christian Cage is having a run right now that solidifies his legacy. Why would we need nostalgia? Guys, gals, and non-binary pals is a terribly potent affair. It is a scent that intoxicates and blocks out, reason and critical thought. It's just like everyone who said, man, isn't it great that the Hardys are back together in AEW? And I'm like, I counterpoint, it's not. I think, Matt is, he's as stiff as a board. And Jeff just looks reckless. More so than usual. I don't know. And then, so it's kind of the same thing. What are you trying? You're trying to recapture a magic that occurred 25 years ago at this point, close to 23, 25 years ago. That was so great back then. Let's just put that away and leave it to memory. Let's just leave it, set it away and set it into the area of our brains where it's just like it'll live on forever as good, as great, and we don't have to think about this anymore. It's like, I remember when Edge was a pretty good worker, I remember when he was okay at it. And it hasn't been his current run that made it spectacular, that convinced me that he still has it, that he can still go. It doesn't, And I figured he might still have one in him, but I feel we would have seen it by now in WWE. And look, Edge came back. Remember when he came back and they started throwing him on NXT? When he was doing the deal where, I don't know which champion I'm going to challenge, right? And that just did terrible business for them. He didn't pop a quarter hour anywhere, didn't do anything. Then he had his matches with Randy Orton, which were... Look, what more does he want? He's already had the greatest match of all time. The greatest wrestling match ever. He's already had it. I don't know. I'm not into it. Look, and he still might re-sign. with WWE, right? Don't forget, this guy's a worker. They're all workers. Professional wrestlers are professional liars. He might outright retire, but he doesn't seem to be talking about it. He still feels torn. And if the torn is between re-signing with WWE and keeping down that road, keeping his stock alive, because look, there are a bunch of wrestling WWE fans, that will rejoice upon the news of Edge re-signing to the company. They'll be like, oh, geez, okay, this is great. Our boy is sticking around. Let's fucking go Edge, 7 more years, or whatever, But in the meantime, I don't know what he has to give. And I feel like AEW has more than enough nostalgia acts, quite frankly. I think he has more. I think AEW has more than enough nostalgia acts right now, former WWE people and WCW, and to keep a good nostalgia vibe with people that I feel wrestling fans want to see, with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions. I think if you start going down that road too hard, I think you might miss out on something. I don't know. Adam Copeland wrestling a singles match or a tag team. I don't know. And yes, the Edge and Christian show. The Edge and Christian show will always be one of the best parts of that the WWE network ever had. That is, without question, beyond reproach, that show was awesome. But again, these are all things that are set in time for another period. Why don't we create new stuff, right? Are we going to do some reviews tonight? You goddamn right we are. All-Star Junior Festival 2023 USA. USA. See, that's what it sounds like when you just say USA. You just say the letters. That happened this weekend. Oh, it's been a long day. This happened this weekend on August 19, 2023 at the 2300 Arena. Everyone has to remind you that the 23 Arena was the ECW Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This was a show that was co-promoted, that was put together by New Japan, and had about, I think it's like 10 different promotions involved. New Japan, of course, AEW Impact, DDT, Dragon Gate, GCW. I'm forgetting some, but we'll get to it as we go along. This is a show that I watched, that I enjoyed. I thought this was a pretty good show. I thought there were some, we'll get to it, but I thought, there was some very, very good singles matches. I think, some of the multi-man stuff was very hit or miss, but here's the cracker, here's the top thing, here's the niche thing that you have to keep in mind here. Whoever was, despite the fact that I thought it was good, this is what you have to keep in mind. This is a show that is entirely skippable nonetheless. Like, you will never regret not watching the show. Although if you do decide to watch, you'll be like, this is pretty fun. Does that make sense? Let's get into it. Maybe we'll clarify it as we go along. Let me take a sip of water here. My God. Pre-show match had Goldie defeating Vinny Pacifico. Vinny Pacifico running the Indies, unsigned anywhere. Good old-fashioned freelancer. Goldie, a.k.a. David Goldie from the Monster Factory. This is an all right little match. Goldie lands an apron bomb and a Falcon Arrow. Vinny Pacifico hulks up by chugging down energy drinks because he's sponsored by G Fuel, and the power of sponsorships are powerful. And he lands an angle slam. Flying knee does the job for Goldie. Pacifico stood out to me in this one, despite doing the JOB. But Goldie seems to have his basics down. Good enough, good heel. Good enough effort here to call it good. How about that? Then on to the main card, the first match of the main card saw Matt Sydal and Yo from New Japan defeating New Japan's Bushi and Dragon Gate's Shun Skywalker. Bushi and Skywalker have matching gear, aka they're all dressed in black. And at the start of the match, Bushi, he offers up the LIJ fist to Shun, but Skywalker waves it off. And so maybe the matching gear is not enough for them to get along. This is a fun little opener where Matt Sydal, who was representing AEW, by the way, he did most of the heavy lifting throughout this entire match. He's doing he's doing standing corkscrew moonsaults. He's shooting off lightning fast kicks and flying through the air with meteoras. And Shun Skywalker, he's doing claw holds. Okie dokie then. Or maybe Shun's the smartest wrestler in the room, It is the curtain jerker, right? After all. Yo and Bushi are, they're absolutely on New Japan multi-man match tour, mid-card tour match. That's what they're doing. Solid but unspectacular work. Skywalker, he uses mist, and he mists Bushi accidentally. Sydal takes him out on the floor with a dive. Shortly thereafter, it comes to an end when Yo interrupts the MX and rolls Bushi up for the win, into a bridge, actually. And there you go. After the match, Bushi offers Skywalker the LIJ fist one more time, but he missed Skywalker and then hits the bricks. So there you go. It's all right. Good, but let's move on. Then we had the first opening salvo of the All-Star Junior USA Tournament first round match. Now, this was the first of two matches to determine the participants in the finals, right? of the All-Star Junior USA Tournament, whose prize seems to be, and I kid you not, cleaning supplies. A mess of, which is weird to say a mess of cleaning supplies, but bear with me here. A mess of cleaning supplies provided by LEC, who was the sponsor of the show. And boy, oh boy, did LEC get their money's worth with that sponsorship, because commentary could not shut up about the mascot. They had the mascot. It's like a plushie, a big plushie sitting down at ringside of Gekioshi-kun. That's the name of the mascot, because everything in Japan has a mascot, right? Every city has a mascot. Every government program has a mascot. Everything has a mascot. And every time it popped up on screen, commentary would just be enamored with the mascot, Gekioshi-kun. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not, not saying that commentary was going overboard. Look, I wouldn't have done any better. Maybe even prompting production to get more shots out of it, gotta tell you. Anyway, this first knockout match of the two matches we had Kevin Knight versus Clark Connors, two New Japan guys. Solid match. Commentary leaned into the history, the fact that Clark Connors, or that Kevin Knight feels that Clark Connor betrayed his LA Dojo brethren by joining up with Bullet Club. Kevin Knight wants to stand up for the boys. And so I'm like, yeah, that's fine. This is perfect. What more? On top of the tournament, you have this little story. That's fine. Wrestling storytelling is simple, folks. It really is. Connors gets a good heat segment after landing a snap suplex on the floor, using his strength to his advantage. Knight fires back with a drop kick, a stinger splash, and a sky-high powerbomb. But Connors yanks him right out of the air, off of a springboard into a spinning power slam, which was pretty rad. Connors even spears Knight out of the air later in the match. I mean, it was all over him. The match would come to an end when Knight attempts multiple roll-up pins on Connors, finally locking him down in a crucifix for the win. And this match was very good, and I think it would have been better if the finish had been better, because the roll-ups, they weren't quite as crisp as one would like, as one would expect. It was a little off, a little iffy. It was all right, but it kind of kept me from really going in and saying, look, guys, this match was great. the finish was a tiny bit awkward, which was unfortunate. Made it end on a flat note, but otherwise, great stuff. And after the match, Clark Connors beats down on Kevin Knight a little more, making sure that he goes into the finals wounded. So that was very good. And then immediately after that, we had the second All-Star Junior USA USA Tournament first round match, where Mike Bailey, aka Speedball, defeated Francesco Akira. And this was my most anticipated match of the card. This was the match I was most looking forward to, because these are two of my favorite juniors going at it in a match that we got cheated out of because of stupid block placements in Best of Super Juniors. I think Akira was in block B and Bailey was in block A, and it's like, fuck. Didn't even meet in the playoffs either. Fuck. But this match, oh boy, it did not disappoint. Bailey and Akira, they have a really exciting opening exchange, striking hard and trying to, get advantage. You can even see, and they're striking so hard, you can see Akira's perfect handprint on Mike Bailey's chest, like a big red fleshy mitten. Bailey eventually gets in control, does the speedball kicks. Akira does a wheelbarrow roll up into a double stomp. There's also a tope con hilo and a high cross body back in the ring by the Italian. Bailey ferociously tosses Akira to the floor, does a triangle moonsault quickly thereafter. Back in the ring, Akira catches Bailey off a handspring into a tremendous German suplex. Another big strike exchange. They're in and out of moves until Akira connects a speed fire. Bailey avoids the fireball attempt though. Eventually, Bailey takes him out with the tornado kick and the flamingo driver. He gets the win. Electric, high speed, high impact wrestling match by two true world-class pro wrestlers just putting on a cool match. Fantastic, awesome stuff. If I were giving stars, which I don't, but if I were, and I kind of have to when I write for Voices of Wrestling, so I'm leaning into it a little more, I'd give this 4 stars. Then we had a 6-man tag match, a trios match, if you will. Rich Swann, Rizuki Taguchi, and the DKC defeated Jack Cartwheel, Starboy Charlie, and Real One. Wait, where have you heard that name before? Oh, that is the wrestler formerly known as Enzo Amore, or NZO. And for some reason, they give him promo time at the start of the match. And I legitimately don't understand a word he's saying. I don't know what he's talking about. Something about too many people making a blunt sloppy. Is he talking in code? Is this meant for people on the, on the inside? Is he inciting a riot? Is that a cue? What is he I do not understand what he's talking about. And look, and he comes out wearing Supreme gear. Supreme, the brand, the thing that you slap the really simple Supreme logo on and suddenly it costs $300 more than it should. You know what I'm talking about? And he has a Supreme cape and he's got Supreme logos on his... Look, anyone who comes out wearing a Supreme cape is trying too hard. I don't know why he feels he has to pander like this. Isn't this guy the most hated pro wrestler? And doesn't he just revel in this, right? Isn't it? Oh no, but everybody hates me. Why does he need this weird ass promo? Why does he need to come out like he's just trying too hard when all Enzo has to do to get heat is come out from behind the curtain? That's all he needs to do, because you know what? People don't like him. And it's not a heat thing. It's a, we do not like you. I know people who were at that show who were like, this is my piss break. This is the time I go to the bar to get another drink. Anyway, there was a lot of goofiness in this match. I guess to wash off the skeeve Goofiness courtesy of Taguchi and his gyrating hips. Lots and lots of funky weapon spots, and the crowd is into it. Jack Cartwheel, who's representing GCW here alongside Starboy Charlie, he was on it that night. He was on it at the show, landing a Sasuke special, and just look, he's just being on point on everything. Real One plants Rich Swann against the post on the floor with a razor's edge. Assisted cutter by Starboy Charlie and Cartwheel. Then Cartwheel does a tremendous DVD. Charlie a tornillo, and that should reassure you as to who's doing the work in that 3-man team right there. The boys, the kids. There's the Coach Taguchi spot. New Japan's DKC lands the Sky Splitter and a cover, which is broken up by Cartwheel flying in from the top. Everyone does their cool moves, except Real One, because he doesn't have any. Instead, he gets super kicked by Rich Swann, who then lands a 450 splash on Starboy Charlie to get the win. Look, the young guys really stood out here. Rich Swann is solid as hell, but I feel particularly like Jack Cartwheel stood out. I think he's getting better. He's becoming more and more polished, a more rounded pro wrestler. And yeah, as little Enzo as possible, please. Thank you. Then we get a Lucky Dip 8-man tag team match. A Lucky Dip 8-man tag team match. Lucky Dip. And the stipulation here, the ref comes into the ring, and he's got a box, and he's got 8 sticks, big sticks, and the tips are colored, and they're all in the box. So you don't see the colored tips, and the wrestlers have to pull out the sticks and compare tips. They have to compare tips with each other. They have to compare tips with each other, and the color that they pick basically determines on what team they are. So on one side, we're getting Alex Shelley, the TMDK, of course, Alex Shelley, Impact World Champion, the TMDK duo of Robbie Eagles and Kosei Fujita, and Chris Bay of the ABC tag team. And on the other side, we get Cheeseburger representing Ring of Honor, TJP, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and Ace Austin, the other half of ABC from Impact. So that's the only real split that everyone goes, oh my god, but they are friends. Oh, god damn it. I'm sorry. So I found Cheeseburger shined in the opening moments of the match with Chris Bay, which ends up with an escalera hold by Cheeseburger. He also made one kid. There was this one kid in the audience, okay? This one kid next to the entrance who all he wanted was for wrestlers to fist bump him, slap his hand, And the kid must have been 4, 5, I don't know. He's a little munchkin of a child. And he's got the most enormous grin. When the wrestlers come up to him, his face just lights up. And when a kid gets so happy he can't make eye contact, so he's sort of staring down there, and he's got this huge smile, and he's got his hand out. The most adorable kid. Cheeseburger gives him a cheeseburger hat, and he's wearing it for the rest of the evening. That kid was glowing the entire night. We got some cool counter wrestling between TJP and Fujita until Fujita slaps TJP in the face. Impact World Champion Alex Shelley interferes as Robbie Eagles and Ace Austin go at it, and everything breaks down. Shelley beats down on Austin and tries to get Bay to tag in to fight his tag team partner, but Bay will have nothing of the sort. He outright refuses and moves on. TJP and fellow New Japan mate Yoshinobu Kanemaru do stereo submissions on Fujita. Eagles fights off the New Japan Juniors and lands a springboard missile dropkick. Finally, when Bay and Austin are the legal men and are in the ring face to face, they refuse to fight each other and do stereo dives instead. I thought that was fun. There's a lot of stuff happening in this match, honestly. But it all comes to an end when Fujita lands the high angle German suplex on Cheeseburger for the win. Big excursion win for our boy Fujita. I'm happy for him. That was fun. Fun little match. Though weird that Impact World Champion Alex Shelley had very little impact on the match. Pun intended. That's why I'm the D-list podcaster with the A+ audience right there for lines like that. Then we had a scramble. Oh, Jesus Christ. A scramble. Soberano Jr. defeated Dragon Kid, Fugaz, Casey Navarro, and Leo Rush. You know what's frustrating sometimes with scrambles? It's like, the conventional wisdom would have it that if you pack a bunch of really talented guys in a ring with each other in a match, it should be great, right? But no, it's not often. More often than not, it is not great. It kind of stinks because I'm not a fan of scrambles and I was not a fan of this match. And outside the high-speed exchange that we got between Leo Rush and Casey Navarro, by the way, representing Warrior Wrestling, let's put that out there, and Leo Rush representing Impact. Outside of that, and that was a moment, that little exchange they had me wanting more. The rest did so little for me. In great scramble tradition, it was disjointed, it was a little sloppy, and the cool spots all come across as just being a little off, right? Like we've got Dragon Kid from Dragon Gate, by the way. He does a Dragon Rana to Soberano Jr. from CMLL, who off that momentum lands a Hurricane Rana on Fugaz, who is also from CMLL. And you're like, wow, that sounds cool. But it was a little slipshod when you actually watched it. I don't really want to spend more time on this than necessary. A couple of fun flashes, but ultimately, this match was the big disappointment of the night. El Desperado and Mao defeated the East-West Express. Nick Wayne and Jordan Oliver both representing, Nick Wayne, I guess, representing AEW, but also wearing a GCW shirt. Jordan Oliver from GCW. This match absolutely ruled. This was a good one, a great one, already highly anticipated because of the pairing of Mao from DDT and El Desperado, who is of course from New Japan. It was certainly the most circled match by folks looking forward to the show, and everyone turned out. Oliver and Nick as well. Wayne and Desperado start things off with a bit of a stalemate-ish grappling exchange. Mao and Oliver pick up the pace. Jordan Oliver gets a good control sequence. We got a good simmer here, right? We got some good stuff simmering here. Then you turn it up to a low boil as the Express lands some really great double team moves. Mao and El Desperado show off some great teamwork too, doing a stereo dive, springboard moonsault. Just great stuff. Mao does distraction punches that even befuddle his partner. El Desperado's like, what? He's looking around as Mao lands some straight rights. El Desperado is so great at these little things. It added such a nice little flavor to the match. Wayne lands sliced bread to break up the heat segment and gets the hot tag to Oliver, who lands the acid kick and an acid bomb. Mao lands top rope knees right into a fallen Oliver and rolls into a cutter on Wayne in his corner. Shortly thereafter, Wayne and Mao have a tremendous exchange. They really do. Wayne lands a shooting star press. Then Mao slides out of the pin attempt but gets caught in a waist lock. So he shimmies out of the waist lock, literally shimmying. And he clocks Wayne right in the face. But Wayne connects with a suplex with a bridge. He kicks Mao, an enziguri by Wayne, and he goes up top. Mao runs up after him with a Frankensteiner. Wayne fights back with a German suplex, follows up with a cutter attempt that Mao avoids, who finishes that entire exchange with a Michinoku driver. Tremendous, tremendous stuff. There's so much stuff in this match with more great double team work by the Express, but Mao takes out Wayne with a Rana driver. I guess that's how you'd call it. And Desperado takes out Oliver with the Pinche Loco for the win. Just great stuff by everyone here. Lit up the place with a match that demonstrates basically how great junior wrestling is. Fast-paced, variety of high-impact moves, all strung together in a dynamic package. And you know what? Jordan Oliver looked great. He looked fantastic. I think he really took this opportunity really, really seriously. He looked good. He looks beefier. He was into it. And I was into it too. Then we get the Philly cheesecake. Excuse me. Let me try that again. Then we get the Philly Cheesesteak Cup 3-way tag team ladder match. Let me say that again. The Philly Cheesesteak Cup 3-way tag team ladder match. That's right. Where Doki from New Japan and freelancer Flo Rida defeated GCW World Champion Blake Christian and Master Wato, and Hiromu Takahashi, and Rocky Romero. Look, fair warning, right? But you know this. I'm one of those guys who's burned out by ladder matches. You know this is all. This starts off with a strike, and I always go into these and I'm like, hopefully, we'll get something exciting or different. We won't fall into the tropes. But tonight was that night, I should say. It was not the night. I didn't care for this match. So just picture this, okay? Pro wrestling. Atop the ring is suspended a takeout bag from world famous Pat's King of Steaks, right? And the winner, of course, has to climb a ladder and unhook the bag to win all the sandwiches. So everyone goes for the ladders and start throwing people into the ladders so we can get one-on-ones in the ring, which is fine. But then I'm like, well, maybe there's too many people booked in this fucking match. Hiromu Takahashi and Rocky Romero tease some dissent, but then they're doing do-si-do spots so I'm like, okay. Then folks start fighting each other off ladders, which by the way, the first batch of ladders they have are not your regular pro wrestling ladders. Like, these are painter, flimsy painting aluminum ladders. Wato tries to stand one up at some point and the thing is so fucking twisted. I'm like, get these ladders out of this ring. Legitimately, the legs are like twisted and gnarled up, and I'm like, stop it. Don't use what intern went to get these? Go buy some ladders. Okay. But they did have proper tall ladder match ladders too, so that was fine. Anyway, you know the drill when it comes to a ladder match. Throw people onto ladders, throw ladders onto people. Throw yourself off ladders, throw people off ladders. There's one cool spot where Low Rider gets pushed off the ladder by Blake Christian, and as he's falling off, Rider steps on the top rope and then does a dive to the floor. That was cool. In fact, a lot of people land their high-flying spots after this. Hiromu splashes off the top of a tall ladder to the floor. Then, of course, we build a ladder structure in the ring, right? With a horizontal ladder. Of course, we got to get the Tinker Toys. It's just people doing stuff, and it's kind of messy. And Master Wato is climbing up the ladder, and his tag team partner, Blake Christian, low blows him. And I'm like, why? Did Blake Christian want to get the cheesesteaks himself? I don't know. Doki sunset bombs Hiromu off the ladder onto the horizontal one and unhooks the bag for the win. Big surprise for the Doki getting the win on that one. But Doki is pretty over in North America. We have to be honest and fair with each other. And after the match, the cheesesteaks, and I can't listen to what I'm going to say here. After the match, the cheesesteaks are then served to Doki and Low Rider by Pat, the king of steaks himself, and legendary New Japan referee and official Tiger Hattori. What do you want from me? And the winning duo, they share some of the cheesesteaks with people in the audience. And then Hiromu and Rocky are left alone in the ring. And then they start eating cheesesteaks. And they're doing their blah, 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 blah. They're going up into the camera and they're going, blah, blah, blah. You know, they're being goofy ass pro wrestlers with the cheesesteaks. And you're like, look, these guys just lost the match. Why are they getting the spoils? This doesn't make sense. And if you wanted Rocky and Hiromu to do goofy ass shit in the cameras and be baby faces on their way out, because I don't know where Doki and Lowrider, the winners, the legit winners of the match, I don't know where they are. They fucked off. If you wanted these two guys to get the spot, just have them win the fucking match. Who cares? Maybe I care too much, come to think of it. Chris Samsa, fellow Voices of Wrestling contributor and the brains behind sportofprowrestling.com, that you can follow at the Chris Samsa on Twitter, as Kevin Kelly often tells us, statistician for New Japan Pro Wrestling. He told me that this was the 4th ladder match in the history of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I hope it stays the 4th for a very, very long time. And then that brings us to the finals of the All-Star Junior USA tournament, where Speedball Mike Bailey defeated Kevin Knight. Big main event for all the bathroom scrubbing sponges you can handle. Kevin Knight wasn't, he comes out with rib tape. He got beat up. So things are already stacked against him. Mike Bailey tries to be chill with him at first, but then he kicks him square in the face. Knight does a leaping crossbody off the apron. In the ring, Bailey lifts the knees on a splash from Knight, but from that point on, Kevin Knight, he really doesn't recover. Kayfabe, of course, he's fine. But, in the story of the match, he just doesn't recover from those knees. Maybe the injury had something to do with it, but in true New Japan style storytelling, they're establishing that Kevin Knight is still too young, still too out of the gate to be able to claim a spot at the table with the big boys. And so Knight spends most of the match teasing hope spots and always coming up a little short. And Bailey, he plays this up perfectly without going into outright heel territory. He's calculating, he's uncompromising on how he picks Knight apart, and the audience picks up on this, throwing their support behind Knight when he does try to rally, only to have Mike Bailey shut him down, and quickly, and with precision. Like, for instance, look, Bailey lands a running shooting star press, but he has his buzzsaw kick blocked by Knight. Knight can't withstand Bailey's strikes, who then rope hangs him to deliver a double knee drop on his back. So again, hope spot completely dead. Bailey runs the ropes and runs right into a drop kick by Knight, but Knight is too banged up to follow up. Soon thereafter, he has to struggle out of a flamingo driver attempt by shifting his body weight back, forcing both guys to topple to the floor. So he's not doing himself any favors here. Was a great spot, don't get me wrong. Knight gets rocked with buzzsaw kicks and struggles out of arm breakers. He does a tornillo onto the floor. It only gets one revolution, right? But it's okay, because at this point, you're like, this dude is exhausted. This dude is, he's taking a beating. He's trying to do his high impact moves, and it's just not working. But then in contrast, Bailey comes back with a slick and crisply executed Asai moonsault, right? Just to showcase that they're on different physical levels right now. Knight busts out a code red and a sky high, but Bailey is all over him again with an arm breaker. Bailey goes for his tornado kick, but runs right into a drop kick by Knight. It's his last gasp, though, as Bailey overhead tosses him right into the buckles, lands the ultimate weapon, and the flamingo driver for the win. This really could have been a match where both guys is like, let's go do cool moves, but instead they decided to layer on top of this a story that made the main event feel big, feel compelling, and added something to Kevin Knight's future. And Knight's future in pro wrestling is brilliant, okay? It's terribly bright. So these types of formative matches where, Bailey pointed it out in his post-match promo. This is the second time that they fight, and the second time that Knight comes up short, So maybe the third time Knight is going to be able to do it. Like, this is what I love about real pro wrestling storytelling is that there's stuff here that we can go back to, that we can harken back to, because now the foundations have been laid so wonderfully. Night is 02, but when that time comes where he gets his win, it's going to be all that more sweeter. Mike Bailey, everything he touches is gold. This is fantastic. And after the match, he challenges Hiromu for a shot at the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. Awesome main event to cap things off. So really, the singles matches on this card were outstanding. Just terrific stuff. And the multi-person matches, well, they're hit or miss. So, it's like about $23, $24 because this was a pay-per-view. It wasn't just available on New Japan World. It's $23, $24. Do you want it? Do you want to spend that? I don't think it's worth it. Like I said, you will be okay never seeing this show ever. You're not missing out on something crucial. But then again, if you do want to, it's a fun little evening of pro wrestling, but there's going to be so much better wrestling over the next few days. Like, I don't know where this would fit in. You know what I mean? I'm glad I watched it live, but I'll never think of this again. Kind of thing. It's pretty much where we're at right now, but definitely not a bad show. And now let's clear this up. We're gonna maybe go a little faster here than we did with the New Japan review, but I still want to talk about it. Impact Wrestling's Impact and New Japan's Multiverse United 2, For Whom the Bell Tolls. That is the complete title here. So their big Forbidden Door event, which also took place at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but that happened the day after the All-Star Junior Festival, ergo August 20, 2023. Let's get right to it. Opening match was, well, I didn't watch the pre-show. I just want to put that out of the way. I feel like Impact pre-shows are all kind of junk, and it's the one thing that, like, I much prefer getting into an Impact show with the opener, which usually I like Impact pay-per-views. I'm on record here. I really, really do like them, and I think there's something to be said about continuing to. I want to continue to cover them, which is why I'm covering this, because they're not bad shows. They do good here, but listen. That's why I try to stay away from the pre-shows, because I think the pre-shows are most of the time a little bunk. But we start off here with a scramble match, which out the gate I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Where we have, well, basically Chris Sabin defeated Bushi, Frankie Kazarian, El Desperado, Kevin Knight, Mao, Rich Swann, and Yo. We get an 8-man collar and elbow tie-up to start, and I'm like, okay, this probably won't be for me. And it really wasn't. And in the first 60 seconds, Kevin Knight dives and lands on his head. I'm like, okay, let's just dial it back here. It's just a scramble. Scrambles are always the same thing. Like I said, a little sloppy, a little disjointed, and the cool stuff doesn't always quite land, and it's always the same thing. And there's a lot of one-on-ones, even though there's 8 fucking people involved in it. Look, there's a human centipede of submissions. Look, it's all right. There's a point where people do cool shit, but it's not for me. And Chris Sabin wins with the cradle shock. I don't know. Bushi missed some after. Who cares? Like, I'm already a little annoyed. I was not in the mood. Then we had Eddie Edwards and Moose defeat the TMDK duo of Shane Hayes, and Zack Sabre Jr. This was actually much better than I expected. Lots of good action. I am not a Moose guy. Absolutely not. He's still unpalatable for me. But good action, strong action that led to a really exciting final stretch. Hayes eats the spear from Moose, covers. It's all right. It's fine. But I think Zack Sabre Jr. is still fantastic, and Shane Hayes looked great here too. Everyone looked great. I even thought Eddie Edwards worked hard. Like, there's nothing necessarily wrong with it. Moose drags it down for me. But other than that, I had a good time watching this match. Then we had the New Japan Strong Women's title in a 4-way, where Julia, in her first match in the United States, defeated Deonna Purrazzo, Giselle Shaw, and Momo Kogo. Julia got huge reactions from the crowd for this one. People love Julia. And I was really happy to see this, and I will continue hammering this home. She is on the cusp of getting creating a whole other fan base for herself in North America. If she keeps up North American appearances, ends up more on television here, people are going to be enamored with this woman because she was showcasing herself here. Fantastic stuff. All her strengths, like her physical strength and how snug she is, how good of a fighter she is. Like, this is a pro wrestler. This is a professional wrestler. She was fantastic. Momo does a wonderful dive to the floor. And, there's some sloppiness in this match. Giselle Shaw fucks up on a dive, and on the floor, and she just ties herself up on it. She hits the side of the apron, and the audience let her know. But she's okay with it. She sort of leans into it. Butterfly superplex by Julia. Lots of neat impromptu double teams as well in here, women working together. I really like the layout and the pacing of the match. Top rope Spanish fly by Shaw, Queen's Gambit by Deonna Purrazzo, but on Julia, but Julia kicks out. Purrazzo and Shaw lock in submissions, but then they go at each other because they both have submissions, and then they start fighting each other because I kind of like that, instead of both of them staring at each other, which is the usual trope. They'll both lock in their submissions and they'll stare at each other like, I'm going to have her submit first. No, I'm going to have her submit first. They're like, no, fuck this. And they start wailing on each other. I loved it. I thought it was a good thing, a good spot. And then, Julia lands the glorious driver for the win. I thought this was very good. And I probably would have gone harder if it hadn't been so sloppy at times, because there were moments that were sloppy, but I found there was enough. Like I said, I thought the layout was good. I thought, and especially for a 4-person title match, I thought the layout was good. I thought the pace was great. It was a great showcase of Julia's capabilities. I swear she's gonna be huge. And you know what she's doing after the match? She just goes around the ring and she's slapping hands. She's talking in Japanese into the camera because she doesn't speak English. I don't know if you guys know this. Or she doesn't speak English very well. She's talking and she's taking pictures with little girls, and I'm like, this kid gets it. Oh my God. She is going to be huge. And not very long. Then we get Doki versus, Sami Callihan defeating Doki. Sami comes to the ring and decides to turn this into a Philly street fight. This was the match, Sami Callihan and Doki. This was the match where I imagine Scott D'Amore calling Gedo up. I did this bit. Calls Gedo up. He says, Gedo, I want Sami Callihan. I want to book Sami Callihan on the show. Gedo says, okay. But I would need Sami Callihan to win. Who do you got? He says, I got your guy. And he sends him Doki, right? Because it's so fucking random. And look, this is your... I don't want to spend too much time on this. This was your basic plodding plunder match. You've seen one of these. You've seen 50,000 of them. Sami said it himself in his promo to make this a street fight. He said, hey, I bled so much on this concrete in this building here. I've been hardcore. That's right. We've seen a lot of these matches. Indeed. Sami, this didn't do it for me. Catch 2-2. We're back in action, back together. Francesco Akira and TJP. They defeated Robbie Eagles and Kosi Fujita from TMDK. I thought this match ruled. Up until this point, this was my match of the night. I mean, I am a tremendous unabashed fan of Catch-22. Francesco Akira is one of my favorite junior heavyweights. All the elements. I love Robbie Eagles. I love, like, everyone in here are great wrestlers that I like watching wrestle. And this ruled, unsurprisingly. Great teamwork by both teams. Akira gets launched to the floor by TMDK and almost wipes himself out on a barricade in the meantime. That was a tremendous dive. Akira does this great reversal out of a turbo backpack by Robbie Eagles. He does it with a poison rana. It was just amazing stuff. Tremendous work by all four guys here. Eagles accidentally super kicks Fujita, and Catch-22 do the double knees for the win. Just great stuff. I have no nuts. Just great stuff. A fantastic tag team match. And you got messy again. We had a 12-man tag team match where the Bullet Club, composed of Ace Austin and Chris Bay, ABC, Alex Coughlin and Clark Carners, David Finlay and Kenta, defeated the team of Josh Alexander, PCO, the DKC, and the Gorillas of Destiny, Tamatanga Tangaloa and El Fantasmo, who apparently came out with the music of the Gorillas. Oh, I mean, it's just a glorified scramble, is what it is. I mean, I guess a highlight here was that this was Josh Alexander's first return match since injury in Impact, and he's when he gets his tag and he's throwing people all around. ELP has a tremendous hot tag as well, playing all the hits. But I feel like this match ran out of steam. It's just like everyone doing cool stuff, and then you feel, okay, we should wrap it up here. And PCO doing moonsaults. Like, I've seen PCO do the moonsaults to the floor and do all this, all these insane dives. Yes, he's old. Yes, his body. I know, I've seen it so many times before. When are we just going to leave this go, kind of thing, right? Isn't it time we just let it go? I don't know. Yeah, it was all right, I guess. It's just unnecessary. Too many people. Then we had Hiromu Takahashi and Mike Bailey taking on Trey Miguel and Leo Rush. And this was very good. This was also an excellent tag team match that we had on this card. Both teams working really well as duos. Speedball has his kicks going, of course. Leg trap suplex by Trey Miguel. Fisherman's Driver by Leo Rush. Tremendous Golden Triangle by Mike Bailey in this match as well. Huge suicide dive by Leo Rush, who does it with such velocity. He and Darby Allin would, be like when they do an anime, when they both, when two really strong guys in an anime, they punch each other, and then like it does like this concussive effect everywhere. If Darby Allin and Leo Rush did their dives head on. There's a great exchange between Hiromu and Trey Miguel that ends with a Falcon Arrow by Takahashi, Ultimate Weapon on Trey Miguel, while Hiromu Takahashi has him in a fireman's carry on his shoulders. That was fun. Great stuff on the floor with the Meteora by Miguel and a corkscrew dive off the apron. Leo Rush low blows Hiroshi Tanahashi while the ref is distracted, rolls him up for the win. I like this. Thought it was really good. After the match, Leo Rush challenges Hiromu for a shot at the IWGP title because he did pin the champion, so he is okay with it. So he has a shot at it. And Hiromu goes, yeah, sure, let's do it. Let's do it now. Like, come on, let's go. Meanwhile, Mike Bailey's like, hey, brother, the night before, I asked for a title. I should be next. And so all of this, and it was confirmed by New Japan, all of this is setting up a, God forbid, a three-way for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title on the Destruction show, which is the next big New Japan show in October. Is it in Beppu? I don't remember. I'm not into this, as you know. I was excited at the prospect of Hiromu versus Mike Bailey, and then I got excited at the prospect of Hiromu versus Lio Rush. I was like, oh man, we're gonna get some good shit here on the road to Destruction or on the road to Wrestle Kingdom, depending. But no, we're getting a fucking three-way, and I'm very disappointed. And finally, the main event, Alex Shelley retained the Impact World Championship against Hiroshi Tanahashi. Alex Shelley works Tanahashi's arm here, while Tanahashi works the knee. And Tana looks gassed after his first control spot, and he's clearly a step behind in this match. And he's really rough throughout the match. Like, at some point, look, Shelley plays into his ground game, and he's working the strengths, and he's making sure that, Tanahashi doesn't get exposed here. He's doing his best, and he is doing, I don't want to say a carry job, but he is guiding him through the match here. Like, Tana does a cloverleaf, and he stumbles forward during the cloverleaf. I mean, my God. It gets really rough. And, I talked about it throughout the entire G1. Tanahashi, that's it. We're good now. We're all going to have to come to grips with the fact that Hiroshi Tanahashi, the ace of the universe, he's done. It's time to move on, and it's okay. But it's also sad, and we can grieve that if you want. If we can grieve Tanahashi not being who he is anymore. But I also understand there's going to be some PTSD for a lot of people who are just we're going to have to figure it out. We're going to have to, whereas, let me put it to you this way. Despite the fact that in my brain, I know Hiroshi Tanahashi he's done. Big match Tana is not there anymore. The ace of the universe he's moving on to another plane, another universe. Even though I know all of this and I see it every time I see him wrestle, I still come in with, oh shit, it's Hiroshi Tanahashi. But slowly it's going to become, oh dear, it's Hiroshi Tanahashi. And there's going to have to be a significant switch there to flip so that I no longer feel that level of disappointment or surprise at the very least, so that I no longer have to cover a Hiroshi Tanahashi match and tell you with gritted teeth and with a sigh, man, he's kind of cooked, isn't he? We're going to have to come around to that. When you have someone so influential and important and systematically great on top of that, like King of the North in the chat using his milestone message for being a member for 23 months of the MrWarrenHayes Show channel. Thank you very much. It says here to set milestones and say Tanahashi is the GOAT. It's one of the greatest of all time. That's not even that. I don't even think it's up for debate. He is. So we're seeing the decline of one of the greats. That's not fun. It's natural. It's normal. And it's going to become normal. But for now, I guess we're still a little stunned. How about that? King of the North says he is the greatest. I say he's one of the. In a very short list. Anyway, Alex Shelley lands a Rainmaker. No one made a big deal out of it. Tom, what's his face? Tom Finnegan. Tom Cinnamon called it a short arm lariat, which is what it was, but in reality, it was a Rainmaker. He does an avalanche air raid crash on Tanahashi, which I thought was pretty dope, and lands the shell shock to put the old man away. It's not Tom Phillips anymore. It's Tom Finnegan. Tom Finnegan. Anyway, that was the show, the Multiverse United 2, For Whom the Bell Tolls. Do I recommend it? Look, about as much as the other show. Like, I'll tell you this. I found there were better matches at the All-Star Junior Festival. I think the singles matches were the star of the show, and they were very good. Very, very good to great. Whereas, there's a couple of good tag team matches on the Multiverse show, but a lot of the scramble stuff and the multi-person stuff just weighs down the show for nothing. And that's always a problem I find with Impact shows. Like they'll be like these really great moments, and then there's going to be something that's just drags everything down. I thought the women's match was really strong. I thought Catch 22 versus TMDK was fantastic. And I thought Leo Rush, Trey Miguel, Hiromu Takahashi, Mike Bailey was also fantastic. So everything else has just happened and whatnot. Just like what is about to happen, the weekly wrestling inspection being wrapped up. And there's no rinky-dink operation. Rinky-dink operation. On the night that MJF makes it known that he is a viewer of the MrWarrenHayes show, I do this kind of rinky-dink bullshit, right? Just that's how he goes. That's how it goes. Hey, but listen, thank you everyone for listening, watching today. Whenever you decide to give this a whirl, if you were watching live, thank you very much for hanging out as long as you did. We record every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern live right here. So if you ever want to make it, we have a good time. We do Q&As. We do all sorts of stuff on the stream that doesn't make it to the final cut, that what you listen to on demand or on podcast. So that's always a good time. Come and join us. That's always fun if you have a chance to do it. Otherwise, thank you for listening on demand. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Why don't you? Because there's always some good stuff happening here. Or you can listen to this on your favorite podcast application. Thank you again if you're doing it there. 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and 5-star ratings help out a great deal. On 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, 5-star ratings on Spotify help out a great deal. But thank you all very much. I will be back Thursday for the Dynamite review. It will be, again, just to underscore this, it will be the last bit of content that I will do till next Tuesday, because we're not doing a Collision review this week because of All In. But I will be back next week to review All In. That will probably take up the bulk of the show. It should be a good time. But in the meantime, I hope you all have an exciting, wonderful, and meaningful rest of your week. And I'll see you next time.